Hi, I'm Amari. I've been dealing with fibromyalgia since high school, which means I experience chronic pain and fatigue most days. Living with my parents and younger brother Jake at 24 wasn't my first choice, but my disability benefits helped me contribute to household expenses while I worked part-time from home. You sure you can't come to my gallery opening tonight? Natalie asked over coffee in my living room. She'd been my best friend since before my diagnosis and never treated me differently. I wish I could, Nat. Today's a 6 out of 10 pain day, I said, shifting uncomfortably on the couch. Plus, I need to save up for that specialized mattress the doctor recommended. Natalie tilted her head. Didn't you say your disability check came in last week? That should cover part of it, right? Yeah, but something weird happened. Mom said she needed to borrow from it for emergency plumbing issues, I explained. She promised to pay me back next month. Didn't she say the same thing last month? And the month before? Natalie's eyebrows furrowed. How much has she borrowed total? I stared into my coffee. I don't know exactly. I let her handle the deposit since standing in bank lines is hard for me. Amari, when was the last time you actually saw your benefit statements? Natalie set her mug down firmly. I don't remember, I admitted. Mom just tells me what came in and what went to bills. Natalie leaned forward. Have you noticed that your brother's been taking a lot of road trips lately? New camera equipment? That vintage truck restoration? Jake works at the auto shop, I said defensively. Part-time, Amari, just like you. Yet somehow he's got money for weekend trips to Colorado? Natalie pulled out her phone and showed me Jake's social media posts. Mountain views, expensive restaurants, and a caption thanking our parents for making it all possible. What are you saying? My voice wavered. I'm saying something doesn't add up, Natalie replied. You're struggling to afford medical necessities while Jake lives like he's got a trust fund. When's the last time you did anything fun for yourself? That's different, I protested weakly. I have limitations. Limitations, yes. But you still deserve to enjoy life, Natalie countered. Your benefits are meant to help you live, not just exist. When was the last time any of that money went towards something that brought you joy? I couldn't remember. I think you need to check your account history, Natalie said gently. Right now. My heart raced as I logged into my benefits portal for the first time in years. The blood drained from my face as I scrolled through transaction after transaction. Regular deposits followed by immediate withdrawals to my parents' joint account. 3 years, I whispered. They've been taking almost all of it for 3 years. Look at these dates. Natalie pointed to withdrawals that aligned perfectly with Jake's trip photos. That's your money he's spending. This can't be right, I mumbled, scrolling faster. Maybe there's an explanation. Amari, the numbers don't lie, Natalie said softly. That's over $1,000 each month. What did they tell you was coming in? About 300 after expenses, I whispered. I've been living on scraps of my own benefits. Just then, the front door opened. Hey, sis, look what I got for my next road trip. Jake waltzed in holding an expensive camping backpack. I looked up from my phone screen, tears streaming down my face. Congratulations, I paid for it. What are you talking about? Jake laughed nervously, glancing between me and Natalie. Mom and Dad have been stealing my disability checks, I said, showing him my phone. For years. And apparently funding your adventures with them. Jake's face flushed. That's crazy. Mom said that money goes to household expenses, for all of us. Really? Then why does every major withdrawal align perfectly with your trips? Natalie asked, scrolling through his Instagram. You wouldn't understand, Jake said defensively. You're always getting special treatment because of your condition. The rest of us make sacrifices too. Special treatment? I stood up, despite the pain shooting through my legs. You think managing chronic pain while watching everyone else live normal lives is special treatment? That money is literally compensation for what my body can't do. Have you talked to Mom and Dad? Jake asked, deflating slightly. Maybe there's an explanation. I'm going to, I said. But first, I need to understand exactly what happened. The next day, I met with Miss Daniels, a disability benefits advocate recommended by Natalie's aunt. Unfortunately, this happens more than you'd think, Miss Daniels said, reviewing my records. Since your parents were designated as your representative payees, they had legal access, but not for personal use or another family member's expenses. What can I do? I asked, fighting back tears. We document everything, file a report, and request new payee arrangements, she explained. You'll need statements, social media evidence of misuse, and witness accounts. Could I get in trouble for not monitoring this sooner? I asked, anxiety creeping into my voice. No, Amari, Miss Daniels assured me. The responsibility lies with the representative payee. You trusted your parents, as many would. The betrayal is theirs, not yours. How much of my money can I actually recover? I asked. That depends on their financial situation, Miss Daniels explained. But the authorities take benefits fraud very seriously. We'll push for full restitution. My brother claims he didn't know, I said. Could that be true? It's possible, but those trips didn't pay for themselves, Miss Daniels replied. Have you spoken with your friend who noticed the pattern? Natalie's been documenting everything, I confirmed. She's meeting us here with more evidence. When Natalie arrived, she brought printouts of Jake's social media alongside my transaction history. I also recorded a conversation with Jake from this morning, she said, pressing play on her phone. Jake's voice came through clearly. Look, Mom and Dad told me the money was from their savings. They wanted to help me experience life before settling down. If it was Amari's money? I swear I didn't know. He sounds sincere, Miss Daniels noted. Maybe, I said. But he still benefited while I struggled to afford medical treatments. There's more, Natalie added. I found these emails between Jake and your dad discussing special funds for his trips. Jake asks if they're sure they can afford it, and your dad responds that the money is already allocated and Amari doesn't need all of it anyway. My heart sank. So Jake did know something was off. He may not have known the specifics, Miss Daniels said, but these emails suggest he suspected the money wasn't just from their regular income. Before leaving, I called my childhood friend Zoe, who'd stayed with us often. I always thought it was strange, Zoe confirmed. Your parents would complain about money for your treatments, then surprise Jake with expensive gifts. Your dad once mentioned redirecting resources to where they'd do more good. What exactly did he say? I asked, my stomach churning. Something about your condition being permanent, so investing in Jake's future made more sense. Zoe paused. I'm so sorry, Amari. I should have said something. How did that make you feel when you heard it? I pressed. Honestly, sick to my stomach, Zoe admitted. I almost confronted him, but I didn't want to overstep. I've regretted that silence ever since. My parents looked surprised when I arrived at home with Miss Daniels. Dad's welcoming smile quickly faded when I placed my benefit statements on the kitchen table. What's this about? Mom asked, glancing nervously at Dad. I know what you've been doing with my disability money, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. I have 3 years of records showing you've been taking my benefits and spending them on Jake. Dad straightened up. Now hold on. As your designated payees, we've been managing those funds for the family's benefit. For Jake's benefit, I interrupted. Road trips, camping gear, that truck restoration, all while I couldn't afford the treatments my doctors recommended. We've kept a roof over your head, Mom countered. Food on the table. You think that's free? That's what my 20% contribution was for, I said. The amount we agreed upon, not 100%. You don't understand how expensive it is to care for someone with your condition, Dad argued. Do I not? I challenged. I'm the one living with it every day while watching opportunities pass me by. Opportunities you gave to Jake with my money. Miss Daniels spoke up. Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, as representative payees, you signed federal forms confirming you would use the benefits for Amari's care and well-being. Misuse is a criminal offense. Mom's expression crumbled. We didn't see it that way. Jake needed opportunities. And I needed physical therapy. I cut in. The medication that wasn't covered by insurance. The adaptive equipment that would have helped me work more hours. Sweetie, we're sorry if you feel... Mom began. Don't. I interrupted. Don't say you're sorry I feel this way. Be sorry for what you did. We did what we thought was best, Dad insisted. Jake has his whole life ahead of him. Your situation is permanent. The word hit like a physical blow. So that justifies stealing from me? Your disabled daughter isn't worth investing in, so you took my safety net and gave it to my able-bodied brother? You're twisting our intentions, Dad's voice rose. We've sacrificed everything for this family. Except Jake's road trips, apparently, I said coldly. Mom started crying. You have no idea what it's like, watching one child suffer while the other one thrives. We just wanted some normalcy. At my expense, I replied. Did you ever consider what normalcy I might have achieved with proper treatment? The pain I might have avoided? The independence I could have built? We never meant to hurt you, Mom whispered. But you did, I said. Every time you diverted funds meant for my care to Jake's adventures, you chose to hurt me. What do you want from us? Mom asked tearfully. I want my money back, I stated. All of it. And I'm moving out. Dad slammed his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. We'll be ruined. You should have thought about that before stealing approximately $42,000 from your disabled daughter, Miss Daniels replied calmly. If you do this, you're no longer part of this family, Dad threatened, his face reddening. You made that decision years ago, I said, gathering my papers, when you decided my needs didn't matter. As we turned to leave, Dad grabbed my arm. You ungrateful... Miss Daniels immediately stepped between us. That's assault, Mr. Wilson. I strongly suggest you step back. Officer Rivera looked up from his notepad. So, your parents have been diverting your disability benefits for approximately 3 years? Yes, I confirmed, sitting in Natalie's apartment where I'd been staying for the past week. We've provided all the financial records and evidence of misuse. And your father grabbed you during the confrontation? He continued. He did, Miss Daniels confirmed. I witnessed it. We'll be pursuing both the benefits fraud and the assault charge, Officer Rivera explained. The Social Security Administration has their own investigation underway as well. What happens next? I asked. Your parents will be contacted for questioning. Given the evidence, they'll likely face restitution orders at minimum, he explained. The assault charge is separate, but strengthens the case of exploitation. How long will all this take? I asked, feeling the weight of uncertainty. Financial cases can move slowly, he admitted. But with this documentation and multiple witnesses, I'd estimate 3 to 6 months for the initial proceedings. What about my current benefits? I asked. We've already filed for an emergency payee change, Miss Daniels interjected. That should process within 2 weeks. After Officer Rivera left, Natalie squeezed my hand. How are you holding up? Better than expected, I admitted. It hurts, but it's also clarifying. I keep thinking about all the pain I endured because I couldn't afford proper treatment. You're the strongest person I know, Natalie said. Most people would have crumbled under that betrayal. I almost did, I confessed. There's a part of me that still wants to believe there's a reasonable explanation. That's because you're a good person, Natalie replied. You want to believe the best about people, especially family. My phone buzzed with Jake's name. After a moment's hesitation, I answered on speaker. Amari, please. Jake's voice cracked. Mom and Dad are falling apart. They might lose the house. That's not my problem, I replied. They made their choices. I'll pay you back for my part, Jake offered. I had no idea, I swear. Even if that's true, you never questioned where the money came from? All those trips while I could barely afford medical care? I didn't want to know, he admitted. It was easier to believe them. Exactly, I said. And that's why I can't just forgive and forget. I'm selling my truck, Jake said, and returning all the gear I can. It won't fix everything, but it's a start. Actions, not words, Jake, I replied. I've heard enough promises in my life. 2 months later, I sat across from Miss Daniels in her office, reviewing paperwork. The judgment came through, she announced. Full restitution plus penalties. Your benefits have been redirected to your new account, and you've been appointed as your own representative payee. What about my parents? I asked. Probation, mandatory financial counseling, and the restitution payments, she explained. Your father's assault charge resulted in additional community service. The system actually worked, I said, somewhat surprised. Not always, and rarely this efficiently, Miss Daniels admitted. Your documentation was exceptional, and having witnesses made all the difference. Later that evening, I met with Zoe and Natalie at my new accessible apartment. Small, but entirely mine. Your place looks amazing, Zoe said, admiring the adjustable furniture and adaptive equipment I'd finally been able to purchase. It feels like freedom, I replied. I'm starting physical therapy next week. The specialist thinks I might be able to increase my work hours with proper treatment. I love what you've done with the lighting, Natalie observed. Much better for your migraines. That's the beauty of having control over my environment, I explained. I've designed everything around my specific needs. No compromises. My phone rang. My mother again. She'd been calling daily, alternating between apologies and guilt trips. Aren't you going to answer? Zoe asked. Not today, I said, silencing the ringer. Maybe someday we'll have a relationship again, but it will be on my terms, with boundaries they respect. What about Jake? Natalie asked. He's returned some money and seems genuinely remorseful, I acknowledged. We're talking occasionally. It's complicated. Has he followed through on selling his truck? Zoe asked. He did, I confirmed. And he's been making regular payments toward what he owes me. It's not just about the money, though. It's about rebuilding trust. One thing I've learned through all this, I continued, is that standing up for yourself isn't selfish. For years, I felt guilty about my needs, like I was a burden. That made me an easy target. You're nobody's burden, Natalie asserted. You're incredibly valuable exactly as you are. What's next for you? Zoe asked. I'm starting a support group, I revealed, for people with disabilities who've experienced financial exploitation. The social worker at my new clinic says it's surprisingly common, especially within families. That's incredible, Natalie beamed. What's not complicated? Zoe smiled. Celebrating your new beginning, to Amari and her fresh start. As we raised our glasses, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, possibility. My journey wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming what was rightfully mine. My benefits, my independence, and my future. Have you ever wondered, I asked my friends, how many others are going through something similar without realizing it? Maybe sharing my story could help someone else recognize financial abuse before it goes on for years. That's the Amari I know, Natalie smiled. Always finding ways to turn pain into purpose. I think I might write about this someday, I said thoughtfully. Not just about the betrayal, but about rebuilding afterward. About discovering strength you never knew you had. When you do, Zoe said, raising her glass again, we'll be your first readers. For the first time in years, I felt not just seen but truly valued. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but at least now I was the one driving.